Is attractiveness a cultural construct? Welcome to Philosopher's Corner. I'm John. Is attractiveness a cultural construct? Well, that's a fair question. We live in the world, and being attractive, in this sense, attractive meaning attractive to, we'll say, we'll take it from like the relationship standpoint, like a romantic, sexual relationship, like significant other concept, right? Like in that sense, is attractiveness, is it a cultural construct? This is like one of the main questions of the modern world, especially in the modern marketing world, and even more so in the postmodernist marketing, world. That's let's take it from there. I mean, now we're in that particular world. That is a highly constructed world, right? The postmodern, like that's what the idea of postmodernism is like, haha, we figured out that you constructed this world, and we're beyond that now. Like we get it. Like the illusion of a constructed world is no longer an illusion, like because we're aware of it. Like we still may be engaged in it, and we still have to be in it, but in terms of, are we unaware that other people built this uh, particular version of the world that we live in, with economics and buildings and TV and all the stuff that goes into it? Like, no, we are no longer ignorant to it. There's no man behind the curtain. We know that other people made it. We know people have agendas. We know what, like, we to some degree know what's going on. But it's no longer a mystery that, oh man, how did all this happen? This is incredible. Like, no, we know. Now, the natural world is still a mystery because like creation itself, like nobody, we have ideas, and some of us think we know, have gnosis of it, but philosophically speaking, the natural world still is like an actual mystery and filled with unexplored nooks and crannies and unbelievable mystical experiences and things that just go beyond normal human description and explanation. But well, we'll take both cases. So in the modern world, in this postmodern, world that we're in, with all the stuff, society and buildings and economies and TV and politicians and all that stuff. So in that world, is attractiveness, is that a construct? So the answer is, I think the answer is, it's yes and no. Okay. So yes, they do their damnedest to make it a construct. Absolutely. We'll say that there's a lot of personal influence from people who run the constructed reality to construct ideas of everything, let's be real, but certainly ideas of attractiveness. One of the things Freud touched on was, he said that essentially the only reason society stays together is because of, what does he say? Like unsubstantiated sexual desire, or basically comes down to the society takes away free sex. Like prior to society, like a man and woman or whatever, they could just come together, and if there was nothing in between them, they could just have sex, and then that would really like satisfy most of the urges. But the only power society really has is to keep that from happening, and put that relationship, that sexual relationship, like on as a carrot on a stick, to make people do everything that society needs to do so that they can get back to that. And he says that, like, without the state's ability to sort of disseminate sex relationships by hiding them as motivation throughout every structure of society, that there would be no society. And I think if you live long enough, you kind of see a bit of the truth in that. So from that, guys, in a constructed society, And if you're aware that, like, trust me, the leaders know that that's true, and the marketers know that that's true. So now that you know that that's true, if you can control not only that separation, but then you can control on top of it what people think is even attractive in the first place, well, now you're playing with fire. Now you got all the cards in your hand if you're on that side of the table. So in that regard, yes, for sure, attractiveness it's a construct, because so many people have realized the power in being able to control the creation of the construct of attractiveness for all different reasons, all different agendas. So on that side, we're dealing with that across the boards, and people play with that in every conceivable manner. There's no one way to put it. It does, like, across every way you can think of it, like gender spectrums, physical beauty spectrums, age spectrums, fashion spectrums, lifestyle choice spectrums. Like, literally, there's no piece of it that is beyond the ability for somebody to want to use it to their own ends to create a construct of attractiveness. Like, oh, you're thin and dark. Oh, well, that's attractive. Oh, you're fat and pale. Oh, that's attractive. Oh, you've got, 2 arms. That's attractive. Oh, you've got no arms. That's attractive. Like, literally does, like, literally anything goes, and it's not connected to anything. There's nothing, like, in that sense. There's nothing sincere or authentic about it, because people that are doing the constructing, they have derivative relationships to what's occurring there. They don't really care. All they care is, like, about, if, like, let's say that they have a money motivation. Well, they don't really have any particular interest in why, let's say, 2 or more people are getting together or thinking they're attractive, as long as that person gets what they want. If all they want out of that is money, out of that synergy is money, then they don't really care. They'll tell you anything. They'll construct literally anything, which I think you can see is on full display. Like, the people that construct these things in reality and take no credit for them, or they don't want you to know what they're doing, they'll construct any level of attraction to foment these relationships, which they're profiting off of in some way. It's not always money. Sometimes it's control. Sometimes it's emotion. Sometimes it's, you never can tell when people get involved in these things. But at this point in modern society, you can see that literally nothing is off limits. They'll just, like, tell you anything. They'll construct whatever. So in that, I mean, just, like, even, like, basic stuff. Even if you just go back, just like modes of dress, like modes of, like, makeup or lotions, or manipulating aesthetic appearances. Well, almost most of the time, all of those aesthetic appearance choices are made in relation to some constructed form of attractiveness. Like, even if the person thinks it's their own idea, they're just like, oh no, it's like that. Like, even something basic, like, why don't I let all my nose hairs, like, grow to 3 feet? I don't know. People don't like it. Like, why did that happen? Who knows? But it did. And everything has some sort of version of that. So that's the analysis in the constructed world. Now, in the unconstructed world, in a more natural world, or in people who are more natural flows, or things that are more in harmony with natural law, like in a non-constructed man world, no, attractiveness is not a construct. In the other sense, attractiveness comes down to what we would, it comes down closer to the, natural Darwinian type things, where the attractive traits tend to be things that complement us. So we'll take, like, a heteronormative example where it's like guy and girl, it's in nature, and we'll just say it's like hunter gatherers. Guy's a good hunter, the woman's a good gatherer and child bearer, and they go and, like, they're out in natural world, and then she just sees that, like, oh, I know when I'm around this guy, like, the animals don't eat me up, and we get fed and we find the right caves, and he's like, when I'm around her, maybe I feel good, and she knows how to, like, deal with the animals, and she takes care of the young humans. I don't really have time for that because I got to be out there tracking down food and, like, keeping things safe. And then they're like, oh, well, this kind of works out. And then that's an attractive quality, right? And then even as you go through and you get into some of the things that we in our modern constructed world start to see as attractive features, like, oh, their face looks a certain way or their body looks a certain way. Even in the natural world, that will come into play at some point. Now, we can't strictly attribute it to just, we can't say that all natural people were completely, deep and utilitarian and they didn't have superficial things. I mean, there were probably all kinds of hunter-gatherers who, oh, I love his eyes, or, I love her body, or whatever. And it didn't necessarily have like a deep intrinsic utilitarian value necessarily. It probably did, but it doesn't necessarily. So it's not to say that they're all super deep. And it's not to say all people in the modern world are just like superficial, brainwashed by marketer people. There's definitely some mixing in there. In the modern world, even though how constructed it gets, people still have urges for utility from in their attraction buried in there, right? It's just how much of the attraction that's in there is buried as constructed, or somebody else's inherited agenda, or some way of just trying to survive in a constructed world that's not necessarily in line with any good values, versus, okay, you're in nature and now all of your relationships need to sort of support your survival, right? Because you're out of that artificial survival bubble. So the nature of the attraction is more in line with that type of living and survival, whereas in the modern world, that type of attraction is more in line with that type of survival. And a person can choose to live, they can choose to live in a superficial world. That is one of the benefits of being in the modern era. You can decide to live in a completely superficial, supported by other factors world. And in there, the attractiveness has different features, different qualities, and is absolutely constructed. I mean, people, I'm here in Beverly Hills, and it's one of the plastic surgery capitals of the world. And that's a decision people make strictly on constructed attractiveness, aside from like the small percentage of people who need reconstructive surgery and things just to feel like normal and not look injured or scarred or whatever. But the vast majority of people go in because they believe that they're attaining some sort of constructed attractiveness that in their mind is some goal worth reaching. And it's not for me to say whether it is or isn't, because people have their different reasons for doing things. But the fact is that it can for sure be a constructed attractiveness. Whereas in this hunter-gatherer mode, nobody's sitting around trying to find sharp rocks to like, Unga Munga over there like me a lot more if I got a facelift, and they're like trying to like cut their face. It doesn't work like that. So, yeah. So attractiveness, is it a construct? Yeah, for a lot of people it is. Ideally, is it? No, of course not. And I think that's also why people go, oh, I want to find my soulmate. Because when people say they want to find their soulmate, they're trying to like remove themselves from the constructs of the constructed world and put themselves into a place where they're trying to find someone and attract someone who fulfills their deeper needs. So, hey, you're attractive. Well, thanks for spending some time here at Philosopher's Corner. I hope you found it helpful, and I hope you have a good day.